Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition, a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. There's fine jewelry, watches, and much more there. Family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry. Go check them out. That's International Diamond Center. Today's program will have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Then we'll have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. He'll talk about the day one of the SEC basketball tournament. If you missed it last night or yesterday, Arkansas wins, Mississippi State wins, Oklahoma wins, and Texas wins. So Vanderbilt and Georgia, people say they're in the tournament, but I guess I don't know. We'll find out. Lady Gators win in softball last night, 3-0 over UCF. Good win right now. Anytime they can win and shut people out without their ace, Keegan Rothrock, who's out for we're not sure how long. But they keep winning a big weekend series. It's actually a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series against the either number 1 or number 2 ranked Texas Longhorns. So it should be a lot of fun. So let's go to the Titan MR hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp. And we are joined by, as I stated, our Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Morning, Shane. Doing okay. Enjoying the weather, cool mornings and warm afternoons. So I'm sure for you, my friend, that's good golf weather, but we've got a lot of most of the teams are on the field. We still have a few to go before they start spring practice.
Yeah, for sure. Brent, let's jump into it right now. The Big 12, which they've lost their 2 marquee teams, Texas and Oklahoma, but I guess I've never been a big fan of these Friday night games, but they're going to be playing a bunch of them this year. I think Friday nights should be set for high school football, not for college football, but it seems like more and more games are moving to Friday night.
Yeah, and TV wants the inventory so that they're going to dangle that carrot in front of the conferences. Now, this is something you'd never see in the SEC, but because of recruiting, but the Big 12 has moved 6 of his conference games to Friday nights. They're spreading them out, so ESPN, Fox will be involved. Opening weekend, Baylor, Auburn, also Colorado in a pretty interesting game will be home against Georgia Tech. Later on, Arizona plays Arizona State. Utah is at Kansas on Black Friday. There will be 2 games, September the 12th, Colorado at Houston, Kansas State at Arizona. So Tulsa, Oklahoma State, TCU, Arizona State, West Virginia, BYU, and Houston, UCF will also be played throughout the season. So, yes, it's a bit of a gamble when you do Friday night, but the Big 12 wants the publicity, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, for sure. Brent, what's the latest on the Clemson FSU lawsuit with the ACC?
Yeah, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. Clemson and Florida State have dropped their lawsuit over the grant of rights, and that binds them to the ACC for 5 more years. The ACC, and this is the biggest deal, they're going to change their revenue model, and they will give a bigger percentage of the media dollars to the schools based on their TV ratings, which means Florida State and Clemson, being the biggest draw, will get the most money. Now, this will also help Miami and North Carolina, too. And the biggest thing about this won't mean much right now, but it will in a few years, is the total cost to get out of the conference has gone from in we saw varying reports, like one or 25 million, 150 million. In the early 2030s is when the contract ends. It will be only 75 million. And Shane, they'll be able to probably negotiate it down lower than that. So your next big probably reshuffling of conferences will be coming in at 5 years. Not saying it won't happen before then, but those are the main three things that happen with the agreement.
Brent, I saw your notes here. We had a couple of sportscasters pass away. Are these the voice of these teams?
Yeah, they were. Pete Medhurst of Navy died in January. Greg Sharp in Nebraska died last month. And Bobby Curran from Hawaii just recently died too. I knew Bobby. Bobby had me on his show often in Honolulu. He really loved college football, so he retired and died shortly thereafter. So, and look, I don't know if it's the way it was, Shane, when we were growing up, but fans really get attached to their play-by-play guys because they also do multiple sports. So that's a shame to see those guys pass on, but we just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, for sure. Dan Lanning got a little boost in his salary.
Do you remember when Dan Lanning was the assistant coach at Georgia and everybody thought Dan Lanning had a real bright future? Well, Dan Lanning, because of last year, basically got a $2 million raise. Now his deal now is $11 million. His former boss, Kirby Smart, is still number one on the pay list at $13 million. 38 years old and has done a really good job at Oregon. He'll be one of the first guys people mention when jobs come open. But Lanning has done a good job. I don't know if you know him at all, Shane, but
I do not.
That's the latest from Oregon. So he will likely be there for a while.
Yeah, I think he's a bright young coach, does a really good job. Brian's question for you, Brent, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Where do you think DJ Lagway places nationally among college quarterbacks? I know he has a lot of potential, but where does he stand right now compared to the other quarterbacks?
Well, and if you're talking about the Heisman Trophy, he's certainly in the top 5. And I think in some guys, maybe even the top 3. Look, he's well thought of. The injury aside, he'll be fine for the fall. As Shane's always told us, that they're not playing the season in March. They're playing the season in August and September. So by then he should be good to go. I know he's limited this spring, but yes, he is well respected and well thought of by Heisman voters.
The Pouncey twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the mango martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their J.F. Hayden liqueurs. Try those flavors and find your favorite at shop.jfhaydens.com. We got Brent Beaird here. Talk a little college football. We got a text on the Titan Mar text line from Kevin saying, wait until you see Shoemaker swing the bat. Yeah. As I've stated, I think Tim on this program, or no, did we not have Tim? Maybe it was Kyle Crooks saying that Tim told him, and I've spoken with Tim as well, said it's the best hitter he's ever coached, which says a lot. She's pretty damn good. All right, Brent, SEC, Alabama, I believe they've started spring ball. How's that going?
They've started spring ball, but like some other teams like Miami, they're off this week with spring break. So I'm sure the coaches threaten them within an inch of their life to behave during spring break. But yes, they did get started. Now, I won't go into all of them, but there are a lot of guys who are out for the spring. Deontay Lawson, the linebacker, Caden Proctor, the offensive lineman. And these are guys who really needed some work. Unfortunately, that they will be very limited. Also, now Bama's got some transfers like everybody else does. Arkel Agnew from Ball State has come in at left tackle, so I think they're happy with where he is. Everybody's focused on the quarterbacks. Ty Simpson, Austin Mack from Washington, and Keelan Russell, who is a five-star freshman coming in, or the three quarterbacks. There won't be anyone announced as the winner. It will be a competition going into the fall. Bama, the running back situation will be interesting. Jam Miller, Richard Young, Draylon Washington, Louisiana transfer. Billy Napier would know him probably, and Akil and Nadir, who is well thought of. So Bama will be up and going again starting next week.
Yeah. A couple things on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Frank says Walter Clayton, All-American. Yes. First team All-American, the first ever in school history.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, but my eyes still tell me he's the best player I've ever seen here. Well deserved. But yes, first team All-American in the history of Florida basketball. Congratulations to Walt. And hopefully can continue having success the rest of this year. Mark's question on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. What's the official word on Liveway's shoulder? We don't know. It has not been reported, the official injury. So I really don't know, Mark. All right. So what's going on with the Arkansas Razorbacks? Is this one of those years where I feel like we've said it the last 3 or 4 years, Sam Pittman is on the hot seat. Is he okay, or does he got to have a better year this year, Brent?
Well, it won't hurt him at all to have a better year. I mean, Bobby Petrino Bobby Petrino coming in certainly helped him. Now they've got a good little quarterback. You remember Taylon Green, Shane?
Oh yeah.
He's back. Now the thing with Green is, Green being a young quarterback can either be really good or really bad, sometimes even in the same series. So they're hoping he's getting better, but they are on the field. Arkansas has started. One guy to look for with them, Braylon Russell, their sophomore running back. They feel good about their running backs, Mike Washington, Rodney Hill, Terrell Reed, Juju Pope, Cameron Settles. Those aren't household names yet, but they think Russell's the best of them, averaged 5 yards a carry last year. So to your point, I mean, frankly, Shane, this is a year-to-year deal with Pittman. I mean, they really need to get beyond 6-6 in a minor bowl game and have a better year this year.
Yeah. Stephen asked on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, how would you compare Clayton Jr. to Vernon Maxwell? In his opinion, the other best UF guard. Vernon, obviously, we all know his history. I think he's the all-time leading scorer at Florida. It's not in the record books. We know he had a great career, had some issues, but when I say the best that I've seen, it's when I became a Gator. Vernon was not here. So ever since I got here on campus in '88, that's usually where I just go, because I didn't grow up a Florida fan. I grew up an Ole Miss guy. So I can't compare. I know Vernon was phenomenal. I'm just going by what I've seen. Brent, you probably saw Vernon play, right?
Yeah, I did. He was phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. And I hope one day they kind of kiss and make up, and he gets to be back in the record book again. But I'll be honest with you, Shane. I think Florida's the best team in the country, and I think they'll probably win the SEC tournament. And I think Florida if I had to pick a national championship winner right now, I'd pick Florida. I think they're playing that good. And to me, the guy who really doesn't get enough credit is Condon. I think Condon may be. I know you've got Janai Broom and the flag kid at Duke, but there aren't many better than Condon. He's in a class that doesn't take long to call roll.
Yeah, for sure. Text on the Titan Mark text line from Daryl. He says, Brent, what SEC coach is in a must have a winning season this year?
Yeah, Pittman is one. You certainly don't want to go backwards. And look, I'm curious what you think about this too, Shane. I think Hugh Freeze is in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing they need is 6-6 or a 5-7 at Auburn, but particularly with the guys that they have brought in. Jackson Arnold, quarterback from Oklahoma. So I'm trying to think. I think everybody else is pretty much okay. I mean, if you have a disaster, anything can happen. But I would say off the top of my head, Daryl, that's a good question. Those are two of the guys who are going to be on the list when they start coming out.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the Auburn Tigers, I think it's a huge year for them. As you just mentioned, they got in Jackson Arnold, who I think is a huge upgrade over what I mean, Brent, you could have been an upgrade at quarterback
Yeah,
for Auburn,
no
right?
doubt.
But
Yes.
they have tremendous skill guys, especially at the wide receiver position. They had a couple of true freshmen last year that were very good. Their name escapes me, but they got that kid that's a playmaker from Georgia Tech that everybody wanted at the wide receiver. So, I mean, don't what else can you tell us about Auburn this year?
Yeah, Deuce Knight is the freshman quarterback they're bringing in. He originally committed to Notre Dame before committing to Auburn. Shane's right about the wide receivers. They've got tremendous wide receivers. Cam Coleman will be a sophomore this year. The Singletary kids who you're talking about, that came from Georgia Tech, who they really like. They also got another guy, Horatio Fields is a guy they like. Malcolm Simmons is another one. Yeah, Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. The thing Auburn did, what they needed the most, besides a quarterback, were two tackles, and they went in the portal and they got a couple of tackles. DeAndre Carter is supposed to help them on the offensive line too. So Shane's right. The problem last year, Peyton Thorne really was, he'd make a great play and then he'd make a boneheaded interception. So they think they're better at that position.
Andy's question on Facebook Live. Brent, did you see that Eddie George is the new Bowling Green coach? Do you see him at a Power 4 school eventually?
I did see that. I was listen, he is, people thought he was kidding when he first started coaching.
Yeah.
But he has turned into really and grown into a pretty good football coach. Yeah, that can happen. And it's not just because of his name. I think he's getting the job done. So I think that's a school we'll be watching pretty closely, won't we, Shane, over the next few years to see how that goes.
Yeah, I have no idea what his record was at Tennessee State. I think that's where he came from.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that Bowling Green fired Scott Loeffler, who was a
Yeah.
quarterback coach here at Florida at one point.
Was.
I did not know that until I saw the other day when they named Eddie George the head coach. I was like, dang, I missed that he got fired. Dan's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. Brent, who's your way too early Heisman Trophy winner?
Oh, gee. Well, yeah, I get it. And that's a great question, too. They're just so many of them at this point is a possibility. I mean, you really wonder, could Nico really step up at Tennessee? Is a real possibility. I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks, when you're looking at the SEC, I mean, Carson Beck now obviously is at Miami, but after shoulder surgery, it's hard to say where that might be going at this point. Arch Manning from Texas obviously is going to get the nod with a lot of folks. So I'm just kind of throwing some names out there for people to watch. But I mean, you've got Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina. If he improves, he could really be good. I'm a real Garrett Nussmeier fan, and I think that's possible too. So, Shane, I'm just going to throw those guys out there and kind of see where it goes. But a lot of these guys have moved on the SEC, but it's a good batch coming back.
Yeah, Joseph's question before we jump into the Gators, brought to you by Mel Law, says, does Brent think Billy Napier's under any pressure of keeping his job this coming season?
I mean, look, there's always pressure. I mean, if they have a disaster, but I don't think they will. I think they'll be better this year than they were last year. I think they fill some real needs. I'm going to be fascinated to see what they do on the defensive side of the ball, which kind of leads us to Florida end of it. Caleb Banks is a guy that has a foot injury that I think could be a monster if he is healthy. I think that's going to help. Jamari Lyons has a broken ankle. They're hoping he's going to get better. And obviously they need some help with the secondary. And look, I know the schedule is brutal, and we understand that, but I just think this team is that they know who they are this year, and I just that they've got a quarterback they trust, and I think they can run the ball as well as a lot of teams in the league. So I do think there'll be some major improvement at Florida.
Yeah, I think it's clearly Billy's best roster he's had since he's here. We said
No
that
doubt.
last year, but it's clearly better this year. The
Yes.
skill, it's the best skill he's had. Again, I think the season, as I say, I feel like I say this every year, it's the front seven on defense that will make
Yeah,
it work.
that's right.
Front seven.
Absolutely.
Because I think they're going to be pretty good on offense. What's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs?
Georgia started practice on Tuesday, so they are up and going, being in shells. The big thing that people may miss for Georgia is, and look, if people think some of the Florida staff have been a lightning rod, that is nothing compared to Mike Bobo at Georgia. And one thing that became clear this week, not only is Mike Bobo back as offensive coordinator, play caller, and quarterbacks coach, his contract now goes through 2026. So he basically is back for the next 2 years. Shane, I know you picked up on this, but Bobo is he's the one who's taken a lot of the criticism. Now, what is unusual, I'll be brief on this with Georgia. Last year, they led the nation in drop passes. They averaged, to get this, 124 yards rushing per game, averaged that per game. And the offensive line they allowed 25 sacks, the most ever in a season for Georgia. So, Shane, if you put all that together, it's hard to be very good, isn't it?
Yeah, this is very, very true. Brent, what about somebody mentioned here earlier about coaches on the hot seat? Do you think Mark Stoops at Kentucky's on the hot seat?
Well, yes, frankly. Now, I give Stoops credit that they had a rough year last year, but he has stayed there. He's the dean of all SEC coaches, and it's been a very quiet off season, frankly, for them. Stoops was on a radio show Tuesday, got real fired up, said he's heard the criticism. He wants to face the challenges, said they're motivated. They've been in the office every day since the loss to Louisville to end the season. So hopefully they will be better too. But yeah, and frankly, a lot of people thought, he kind of flirted with the A&M job when that came open. But they do need a good year. But a lot of people thought he might even retire. But yeah, if folks haven't heard, Stoops will be back for another year as the dean of the coaches in the SEC.
Yeah. David says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, Scott Loeffler left for the Eagles. I don't think he was fired. Appreciate that. I wasn't aware. Maybe he said, you know what? And especially at these group of five, these small schools,
Yes.
You can coach your tail off, but you lose a lot of your better players to go be backups at Power 4 schools, and it's just it's not even worth coaching anymore.
Good point.
So that could have been the case. Real quick, Brent, you mentioned South Carolina. I got to meet Sellers at he won the Freshman of the Year award for Coach Spurrier's deal here. Very articulate guy, smart. He is a big joker. About 6'4.5", about 250. Yeah, I was very surprised how well spoken he was. Just a sharp kid. I got to speak with Mike Shula, who's going to be their new offensive coordinator. He was one of my coaches at the Bears. But South Carolina feels like they got a pretty good team coming back.
Yeah, they really do, and they feel pretty good about the wide receivers. Mazio Bennett, Nick Harbor is a guy I keep hearing about. He's going to be really good. No, there's as much excitement right now in South Carolina as I've ever seen. That's not saying that they'll be great, but I'm with Shane on that one. So if Sellers can improve his accuracy, they could be a very dangerous offense.
Brent, give us some nuggets before we get you out of here.
Yeah, Kyle Williams is a new defensive line coach at LSU. This is almost a record maybe for the SEC. This is the sixth straight year that they've had a new defensive line coach. 6. So now he was a former player at LSU, former high school coach at Ruston High School. So he has stepped in with that too. Missouri's really excited about Ahmad Hardy at running back to see what he will be able to do. Oklahoma has got what they call the Crimson Combine. That's their spring game. As they call it, it's a combine-style drill, skills challenge, and on-the-field fan engagement. So this is what a lot of schools right now are going to with that. Tennessee spring game is October. Is coming up in April on the 12th. And Shane, another thing going on with these spring games is they're not only are they not going to be on television, they're not even going to be on streaming. The schools aren't even streaming these spring games. And again, this is the concern about it. As you know, the portal opens next in about a month. Basically, I think it's the 15th or the 16th. So coaches are scared that if they have the game on television or on streaming, that they'll get players poached from other schools. So I think the answer to that is move the transfer portal date for April to another month.
Yeah. Brent, good stuff as always. Enjoy the weekend watching the players, and we'll talk to you next week, my man.
Good. Can't wait, bud. Take care. Thanks.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, joining us on the Titan MR hotline. Take a quick time out, come back. We'll be joined by the SEC Network's Mike Morgan. We'll talk about the SEC tournament, other tournaments going on, and get ready for March Madness. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Meals Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Unleash the inferno.
Naysayers. Setbacks. Injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Back to the Titan Number Hotline. It's our man, Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. What's up? What's up, Mike?
Good morning, Shane. Good morning, PodUp Nation. It's one of the favorite parts of my week to join this fine, successful, burgeoning, escalating program that is taking over the nation.
Yes, that's it. That is it. Hey, Mike, real quick, we had a couple of people wanting to know if I saw that Morikawa's caddy made a hole-in-one on 17 yesterday. I did see that, but I saw Alex Toasty, former Gator golfer, he made a hole-in-one and he jumped into the lake.
Nice. I would probably do the same.
He had trouble getting out, and his caddy couldn't get him back in. He was struggling getting up that wall. But yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyway, TPC's cranked up now and should be a good weekend. Mike, before we jump into basketball, you and I were talking at the break about spring games. Brent brought up spring games. They really mean a lot now. But when you were a student here, going through the broadcasting school, tell that story you were telling me real quick.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking because, as you know, spring games used to be a big deal. The fans look forward to it. You'd have people were just jonesing for football. You had recruiting came and went, signing day came and went back in like first Wednesday of February every year. And then we got to April. It's like, oh, man, we get to see a spring game. So Fred Taylor's freshman year, I guess, I got to call a half of the game play-by-play with Larry Vittel, who was kind of my boss at the student station WRUF. And for those that knew Larry was like an institution in Gainesville for many, many years. He's also very intimidating. He wasn't afraid to kind of jump your stuff if you screwed something up as a student. So I'm doing play-by-play. I'm so excited I get to call a Fred Taylor run, and Fred Taylor makes this – He bursts through the line of scrimmage. He gets to the second level. Then he gets to the third level, and it's nothing but him and Michael Gilmore, the safety. And I said something to the effect of, and Fred Taylor makes a juke on Michael Gilmore. Gilmore's jockstrap left on the ground after that move. And Larry just turned and looked at me. We went to a commercial break, and he said, "Don't ever say that again, Mike." I thought I had this great call.
Yeah,
I thought I had a little fun with it on a spring game. He was not having any of it. But I do remember just, that was when Fred Taylor, Riddell Anthony, Ike Hilliard, and, of course, Danny Werfel, they were all just kind of carving out that next wave of great Gator football teams, that one of which would eventually win the national championship. And I remember spring games, and I've called several of them for ESPN, how big a deal they were, and it was semi-legitimate football. We're getting away from that, Shane. They look more like glorified scrimmages, and I think eventually they might be facing extinction. I just think coaches now are too paranoid, and they don't want to deal with it anymore.
I agree with that. All right, let's change gears to basketball. That's what everybody wants to talk about right now. Walter Clayton, first ever All-American at the University of Florida. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is. I caught a little bit of your conversation with Vernon Maxwell, and obviously Vernon's a little older than both of us, but I remember as a kid just watching SEC basketball on Jefferson Pilot. Vernon Maxwell was a bad dude.
Yeah.
I mean, in more ways than one. But Vernon on the court now was one of the best scorers the SEC's ever seen. So I get a little bit sensitive to that, where it's like, well, wait a minute now. Let's not just put anybody in Vernon's category. If you want to talk about a flat out scorer and bucket maker, there was nobody better than Vernon Maxwell to come out of Gainesville, Florida. But Walter Clayton is certainly a special talent. And what's overlooked perhaps to the national media, they don't understand he's playing point guard for the first time. He made that transition. And he knows at the next level that's what he's going to be. That's not an easy transition, and he's been able to do it, I think, about as smoothly as you can ask to, because so much of playing the point is a mentality. It's an understanding that the offense goes as you go, and very often, even though you are a great scorer, you have to be a facilitator. And I think he's handled that extremely well. He's a special kid. I've gotten to know him fairly well. He's been a pleasure to cover, and I look at the hard work he's put into his game. A kid that was overlooked, a kid that was known more as a football player, starts at Iona. Patino leaves. He decides to go to Gainesville and turned himself into an All-American. So kudos to him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so day one is over with. I didn't get to see, I saw a couple of the games last night during the day. The weather was so nice, Mike. I went and played golf yesterday, so I missed. But I got a couple questions about day one. Okay. Georgia and Vanderbilt, I guess people say they're in the tournament. I don't know if this loss hurts them or your opinion on that. But then I was reading, I saw on Twitter, Arkansas gave up a big lead and then they were shooting free throws, and Calipari told his kid to miss the free throw on purpose or something. Can you break
Yes.
that down for us? That made no sense to me.
It made no sense to anybody other than Cal. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but if he hits the free throw, the game is over.
Yeah, it's a 4-point game then,
It's a
right?
4-point game with like 3 seconds. It's impossible to lose at that point. And he went ahead and told Janelle Davis, the former FAU Owl, miss on purpose so you can run time off the clock. That might be the strategy if it's a 2-point lead, but you're up 3 and you have a chance to go up 4. It made no sense. But Cal's going to die on that hill that
Yeah.
that was great strategy. I didn't understand it either.
And do you think Georgia and Vanderbilt, are
Oh,
they still in or what?
Well, I just had Georgia Vandy on Saturday, and we, trust me, we crunched every number imaginable. And I didn't want to say it was a bubble buster because I thought both teams still had a good chance to get in. But the way we put it, the way Mark Wise and I put it was, if you win this game, you have no anxiety on Sunday. And Georgia has no anxiety. By Georgia winning that game the way they did, they're going to the big dance. It'll be their first trip in 10 years. Kudos to Mike White for getting it done there. I think Vandy's still in, but they might have a little anxiety, just a little. But no, I think Coach Byington, who's done an outstanding job, I think they're still going to make their way in. Right now, the only bubble situations left out of the SEC, I believe, Texas #1, maybe Oklahoma if things get completely nuts and drunk and stupid in terms of bid stealers. But I think for the most part, the SEC has got 13, and if Texas wins, you could be looking at a 14-bid league, which is insane. The record's 11. It's going to be 13-14 out of the Southeastern Conference.
Joseph's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. What's Mike think about the Drake Bulldogs in the tournament and their coach, Ben McCullum?
I think it's one of the best stories out there. JC and Morgan, quick plug for the podcast. We do that every week. We talk a ton of college football. Dan Wetzel was our guest, who I think has been an elite reporter for years for Yahoo. He just transferred over to ESPN, and he brought that story up, just talking a little bit of college basketball. What makes that story so unique, Shane, is that their coach was a Division II coach. So he's got to put together a roster. So that roster, it's the closest thing I can think of would be the Indiana story with Signetti bringing all those kids from JMU over. Mm-hmm. But in this case, he brought a bunch of players over from Division II basketball that are help leading that team. So that is one of the best stories. These are kids that got recruited by nobody. There's 350 Division I programs. And these kids couldn't get an offer from 350, so they played D2, and now they're playing on an NCAA tournament team in D1.
Drake's always had a good program. Where did their coach from last year go?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you that. I wasn't prepared for that, sir.
Well,
I need to go back and study.
The Drake Bulldogs?
I'm not huge on Drake Bulldog basketball, Shane. I just know the story of their current coach, but I can't give you a good history of the lineage of Drake basketball coaches.
So let me ask you this, because JC asked me this the other day, and I don't know if it's an actual bet or not, because he loves to look at different prop bets on Hard Rock or whatever. But he said, would you take the SEC teams or the field in the NCAA tournament?
That's a great question. So I look at that as, are you putting your money on one camp? You've got Florida, Auburn, Bama, maybe Tennessee. I don't know if anybody else really has a chance of winning the whole thing. I think a lot of SEC teams will go far. And then on the other side, you've got Duke and Houston. I think it's that simple. If you make that bet, it's that simple. You're picking out of those two pods, you're picking one out of the two. And we know, Shane, the SEC hasn't won a title since 2012. That is the Anthony Davis, Coach Cal team at Kentucky. Now, this league's had several Final Four teams, South Carolina, Auburn, to name a couple of them, Alabama last year, but has not been able to cut the nets down in a considerable amount of time. So if ever there was a time for the SEC to break that slump, this is the year.
There are many car washes in Gainesville, but only one Gallo car wash, locally owned by UF alum, and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. Locations on Northwest 13th Street, Southwest Williston Road, and coming soon to Jonesville. We got Mike Morgan from the SEC Network on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Tony says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, PTSD with that hat that Mike has on.
Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern. Remember they came in here and beat the Gators?
Oh, the must. I almost forgot about that. Yeah. So I did a baseball regional there a couple of years ago, and they at the hotel, this rarely happens, by the way, they gave us like a gift bag of some kind, and it's a really comfortable hat. And I don't have any, well, they're not FCS anymore. I'd like to say they're my adopted FCS team, but they're not. They're in the Sun Belt. Yeah. It's so weird to see all these programs that were 1AA powers that are now playing FBS. But yeah, sorry about that, Tony. I forgot I wasn't even thinking about that Georgia Southern would pose any threat to Florida athletics. But that particular year, I remember talking to Will Muschamp doing a South Carolina game when he was coaching there, and he's like, "That's the game where I knew I was getting fired." After that loss, like, I mean, there was other things. What was the game where the players, you had two Gators blocking each other against one another?
I do remember that.
You remember that? It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. The Will Muschamp era. Yeah, that was those were lean times, Shane. But maybe better days ahead this year.
He had one good year, though. One good year.
Well, that's when Driscoll played like an all-conference quarterback. And the kid did wind up like with a cup of coffee in the NFL. You look back in the history of this, I've talked about this before. Coaches and their success is linked to how their premier quarterback plays. Like you can get everything else right. You can recruit linemen and corners and running backs, but at the end of the day, so often your future, your job security is dependent upon, and I'm pretty sure he was an Elite 11 QB, Shane.
I think he was the number one player in America.
Okay, I mean, he was highly touted. So your future will depend heavily on whether that kid pans out. And for whatever reason, Driscoll did not pan out. Then he goes to La Tech and he lights it up, and that's how he wound up on an NFL roster for a few years.
He's still in the NFL.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
He
may play longer than I played.
Well, you were a two-time SEC Player of the Year. That's you making it as long as you did is not nearly as big a surprise as Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah. So we have great researchers. Dan says Darian DeVries, I may pronounce his name wrong, left for Drake to coach West Virginia. I think he took his son with him too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would not have known that. Good call. This is why you have the intelligent, sharp audience, and I don't just say that for cheap applause. This comes from the heart. PodUp Nation, you're the best.
Yeah. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law. What was your reaction to Bruce Pearl being named SEC Coach of the Year over Todd Golden?
Not surprised because it's lazy. And look, I think you can make an argument Bruce Pearl is the SEC Coach of the decade. What he has done at Auburn is one of the best rebuild jobs in all college basketball. So I don't think it's not like you can say, oh, he doesn't deserve it. But it's lazy. You just take the team that had the best record and you vote for their coach. That's what a lot of people do. I think you could have made a stronger case for Todd Golden, for Coach Byington of Vanderbilt. I think there were stronger cases out there. Bruce has, for my money, as talented a roster as anybody in college basketball. Of course, some people could come back and say, well, so does Todd Golden. And they wouldn't be wrong. Todd Golden's done a great job. I think the biggest accomplishment of Todd Golden and that staff, obviously, he's a good coach. The biggest accomplishment is the way they put that roster together. Yeah. To find a kid like Condon that was completely under-recruited, Thomas Howe, completely under-recruited, Walter Clayton, transfer from Iona, Elijah Martin, they needed better defense. So what do? They get a lockdown defender guard. He should have been all SEC defense. That's a overlook by the people that voted on that award. So there's no McDonald's All-Americans on this team. This is not like some of Billy's teams that were just loaded with 4- or 5-star recruits. But he found guys that fit the system and play well together. That's the biggest skill for a lot of coaches in today's game. How do you put that roster together to give yourself a chance to win big prizes?
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at the starting five, you go Iona, Belmont,
yes,
FAU, Washington State, and then obviously Condon didn't transfer in.
From Australia, who was going to go to St. Mary's.
Yeah. He looks like a St. Mary's type player, doesn't he?
Yeah. I tell you what he looks like right now is he looks like a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Enjoy him because I'm not sure. I don't know his financial situation with his family, and I don't know what makes Alex Condon tick. And you never know. That's a personal decision. But I'll tell you right now, he will be drafted if he goes. And I think he can play in the NBA. He is that good athletically. He's got a motor like most 6'11" guys would never have, and his shot continues to improve.
All right, let's look at today. Do you see any upsets happening in the SEC tournament today?
Can we go through the games one by one? I don't have them in front of me. I
don't
know.
either. I thought you might. I know Mississippi State and Missouri play each other because that's who we have. We have the winner of that game.
Right. I mean, the thing
Arkansas
about
is playing Ole Miss in game one.
Yeah. I mean, see, none of these are really major upsets at this point.
Well, that's the great point.
Like I don't have the Vegas spreads in front of me, but I guarantee you, like there's no double-digit spreads at this point with these matchups. At least I don't think there is. Let's see, Kentucky
is playing Oklahoma.
Has Oklahoma. Now that would be an upset. If Oklahoma beats Kentucky, that would be an upset, but it wouldn't be like I mean, that's the thing, Shane. At this point, LSU and South Carolina are out. They were the two worst teams all year long. And even so, South Carolina beat Clemson, which is one of the best teams in the country. I don't think there is a major upset at this point. Like nothing would surprise me. I'm sure a lot of your audience is saying, "Hey, can we win this thing? How do we win this thing? Should we win this thing?" The answer is yes. All the above. Florida's obviously good enough to win it, but there's multiple teams that are capable on a given night on a neutral floor in Nashville that can beat Florida as well. And I'm not so sure. And I hope the SEC is not listening when I say this. I'm not so sure that some of these teams and their coaches, if you were to give them what's that thing you give sodium pentanol, something like the truth serum, where you stick it in them and it makes you tell the truth. If you look at it, the SEC tournament's a great event. Who doesn't want to win it? But last year, the two teams that made it to the title game, Florida and Auburn, both lost in the first round.
Yeah.
So these are exhausting games. I'm not so sure if you're not better off losing early and getting ready for the more important tournament around the corner.
Tony wants to know on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Mike, can you break down the Montana Grizzlies? They're in for the first time since 2019.
I can't. I will tell you, years ago, I had a Montana Grizzlies game against A&M in the NIT. So I learned a little bit about the Grizz in that program. But no, I can't. Tony, I don't have that research. Now, if I was, Kevin Harlan and I'm doing this game for TNT in the first round, I promise you, Tony, I would have every nugget of information you could possibly want, but I'm just not there yet.
Yeah. The other game in the SEC, which this could be a huge game, You got the Aggies and the Longhorns.
Yeah, now
That's a huge game for Texas, wouldn't you agree?
100%. I think they're the only team really feeling the anxiety of the bubble right now. I think Oklahoma did what they needed to last night. I think they're pretty secure. They're in. Texas, I believe, needs another one if they're going to make it 14. And again, if Texas beat A&M, would it be a massive upset? No. No, not at all. I mean, they've got one of the best freshmen in the country. They're a team that uh, they've had some quality wins this year. A&M can be Jekyll and Hyde. Some games they just don't score. They always defend. They always muck it up, and nobody wants to play them because you get beat up. But no, I don't think it'd be a major upset. It'll be a fun game, that's for sure.
Yeah. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit. Listen to this, Mike. In 1915, Brooklyn manager Wilbert Robinson tries to catch a baseball dropped from an airplane, but the pilot substitutes a grapefruit. It doesn't tell me if he caught it or not, but could you imagine trying to catch a grapefruit or a baseball coming down from an airplane?
I could. Did Buddy Martin cover this event? Was he?
Buddy might have been there.
Was he there covering that? Love you, buddy. No, I wouldn't want to do that, Shane. I thought you were gonna say, and then the pilot got so distracted in the act, he wound up crashing
The plane
into the street, and it was a tragedy of epic proportions.
No, they didn't. I get these little nuggets for This Day in Sports, but it didn't tell me if he caught or anything. It just kind of ended right there.
Yeah,
So
we need more details on
more
that story.
details. I'll have somebody research that.
Get your
All right,
crack staff on that.
Yeah, before we let you go, Mike, who do you think? Somebody had a question earlier. I can't find it now, but they want to know who cuts down the net Sunday in the SEC tournament.
Again, I'll continue to put my money on the best two teams in this league and two of the best three teams in this country, and that's Florida and Auburn. I think Florida and Auburn have the best rosters. They're playing some of the best. I realize Auburn recently lost a game to Alabama. That's fine. It doesn't change my opinion on how good they are. Just like if Florida loses in the semis of the SEC tournament, they're still one of my best teams in all college basketball. You're going to take a loss this time of year when you play quality competition. It doesn't mean that you're still not set for a great run in the NCAA tournament. So I'll take those two teams as the best two to play, which would be a rematch. I'm not even sure. I don't have the bracket in front of me. They could play in the final, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll go with a rematch there. But like I said, if either one of them, let's go to Florida. If Florida loses early, I'm not so sure it's the worst thing in the world, Shane. I'm really not. Because look, SEC tournament's great. Billy won his fair share of them. But what Florida fans really are craving is a Final Four run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the banners are for. That will signify, hey, look at this, Florida basketball is back in a big way.
All right, last thing real quick before we get you out of here. Monty from Lynchburg, Virginia just sent a text on the Titan No More text line. He said, ask Mike, if he was coaching against Florida, how would he game plan them?
Ooh, great question. Great question. They are
I know what I would do.
Zone?
No, I think it's what Mike White did in the first half. Don't let the guards beat you. And if Condon and Houck can knock down the threes, you live with it.
Yeah. So you sag. I think we talk about this all the time on the telecast. I don't think teams zone enough, especially neutral floor, different gyms. I don't think you can guard Florida man to man. I think Clayton and Richard and Martin are such a matchup nightmare. You can't crowd them beyond the arc. They can drive past you. They can drive and dish. They love to throw alley-oops to Houck and Condon. I would roll the dice and play more zone and say, okay, Florida, we're playing a zone, so you're not just going to – there's no blow-bys here. You drive, we're going to collapse on you. You hit threes, we lose. You miss threes, we have a chance to win. That's what I would do. I don't think you can play Florida man-to-man and have great success against them. I just think they're too difficult to match up.
I agree. So Andy did some research for us.
Oh,
About the plane dropping the grapefruit.
yes, bring it,
That
Andy.
it happened in Daytona. When the grapefruit landed in Wilbert Robinson's glove, it made a big splash. Robinson thought he had lost an eye as the juice squirted everywhere. The team got a good chuckle as the story went into baseball lore. I can't believe he even caught the damn thing.
I know. I thought you were going to tell me he broke his hand, not worried about the pulp, in his eye like Costanza. Pulp can move, baby. I thought you were going to say it. He broke 3 fingers and they never did it again.
The things you learn on this program. Mike, appreciate your time, my friend. Let everybody know how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, JC and Morgan just dropped another one with Wetzel the other day. We had Tony Barnhart on the week before that. We need to get you back on there soon enough, Shane. But it's free. It's on all the from Spotify to iTunes. We love the YouTube audience as well, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. And while we're plugging away, give my buddy Sean a shout. He's down there in South Florida. Financial advisor, has a lot of Florida clients. MGAwealth.com. That's for Sean, and he'll take good care of you and your family's financial portfolio.
Yeah. And he says that's why spring training in Florida is called the Grapefruit League.
That I knew. I started to put those two things together because somebody I heard asked that question not long ago during a Braves broadcast, and that was the answer that they gave. So it's all coming together. It's amazing the things we learned on the PodUp show with Shane Matthews.
No doubt. Mike, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Thank you, Shane. Be well.
That's Mike.